I think some of you who are members of the club know that Scott McGinnis is running for governor, and he's called me a couple times saying he wanted, or his staff said, can Scott come out and speak to your DTC Rotary? And we said, sure, fine. We meet every Tuesday, let us know. And they've called twice, and twice they haven't called us back. So I thought, well, what the heck? This isn't fair. We keep holding a spot for him. And lo and behold, as some of you probably know, Dan Maes actually came in first at the Republican State Convention, and Mr. McGinnis came in second. And so I guess I'll call that the early balloting. And so we called up, I have to tell you this, so I called the office of Dan Maes for governor, or I don't know the exact title, and some fella picks up the phone and says, hello, and I said, I'm looking for the Dan Maes campaign. I'm looking for somebody who can help me. He says, well, this is Dan Maes. So he answered his own phone. And we were talking about Wisconsin roots in the upper Midwest, and he has sort of what I like to say is an upper Midwest attitude about hard work and just being yourself. And so Dan and I talked a little bit. I said, would you like to come out to our social hour and speak? And he said he would be willing to do that. And then he turned me over to Jordan Maes, who I understand is another staff member and family member.
Right.
And Jordan and I talked, and we agreed on tonight. So Dan Maes is here, as I say, Wisconsin roots, successful businessman. Came in first at the Republican State Convention. Understand you actually ran some businesses. You're a real businessman. And,
that's right.
So he's done it from the ground up, and we promised him his 15 minutes of fame divided in 2 sections. 10 minutes for us to tell why he wants to be governor, what he would do, and another 5 minutes for questions. And so without further delay, here's Dan Maes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The only way my wife gets to spend time with me anymore is to come out with me. So this is my wife, Karen Maes, and I appreciate her coming out tonight. My county chairman is Tom Myers. He's a Arapahoe County chairman, and his wife, Courtney, is also here with us tonight. Campaigns also divvy up the state into counties, and we assign people to those counties to help us develop our support in those counties. And Tom and Courtney have been incredible supporters to us. And then Judy is just an incredible hard worker on our campaign and has been with me longer than anybody to date as well. So I want to acknowledge she's her official title is Angel. She just kind of watches over us and watches over me and prays for us and just works really hard. But anyway, you didn't come to talk about my staff. I am Dan Maes. I want to be your next governor. Why? Why would you want me to be your next governor? Why do I want to be your next governor? Let's clear the air. I'm a conservative. I am a conservative's conservative. But that doesn't necessarily mean because you've got a D behind your name that I might not work for you. I think more than ever before in 2010, people are less concerned about R's and D's and U's and I's, and they're ready for people to lead. And about 1.5 years ago, I picked up the Denver Post. And I read an article, and it said, who do the Republicans have for governor? They don't have anybody for governor. They can't run this guy again. He's a loser. And they can't run that guy again because he badmouthed the loser. And this guy's too young and that guy's too young. Who do the Republicans have? And oddly enough, this took ownership of me. It just got in my head. I couldn't sleep that night. I woke up at 3 a.m. thinking about it. I couldn't sleep the next night. And this basically repeated itself for about 30 days. And I said, something's going on here inside me, and I have to take care of it. So I called Dick Wadhams, the state chairman of the Republican Party, and I said, being a conservative, I know I'm gonna offend a few of you every once in a while tonight, but I make no apologies. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry to be sorry about it. Anyway, and I said, Dick, who do you have for governor? And don't tell me it's another old moderate guy like John McCain, because we need real conservative leadership in our state. And he said, well, we don't have anybody. Why don't you come on down and talk? And that's what I did. I went down, we talked, I did a little due diligence, I interviewed with some people, and what I wanted to hear was, you're crazy, don't do it. And not one person said, you're crazy, don't do it. I spoke with Bill Owens, I spoke with sitting legislators, past legislators, right down to precinct committee people. In the back, we got some old precinct committee folks here, and when I got all done, I said, you know, leaders lead. what politicians do is they sit in the back room and they say, gee, Judy, it's your turn. You've served for a long time. It's your turn. I'll wait until you serve. Or they say, I won't run against that guy. He's too strong. I'll run for this because I can win this one. I didn't think about any of that. I said, Colorado needs leadership. I felt Colorado is heading in the same direction Washington is heading. Now, some of you might be fine with that, but I'm not, and a lot of people are not. We saw our unemployment rate go up. We saw our energy industry leave the state. We saw government grow by 4,000 employees in the last 3.5 years, while how many of you own your own businesses? Okay, not too many of you hiring right now, are you? No, if anything, you're letting people go. And you're sitting tightly on your checkbook and you're saying, I'm not going to give my money up. While Bill Ritter added $500 million in payroll to our state government. That's not right. And I think that's going in the wrong direction. So that's what motivated me to do it. You heard a little bit about my background, and I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm just a redneck kid from a little town in northern Wisconsin where people don't know any better than to work hard because it's either work hard or become an alcoholic, it seemed like. So for me, I became a hard worker. But my father died when I was 10 years old of alcoholism. He was in World War II. He fought in the Pacific. He couldn't shake the ghosts. And he died when I was 10. There was no life insurance policy. There was no 401k. And there sure was no Washington bailout. It was called a paper route. And at 13, I started delivering papers every day at 4:45 in the morning for 2 years straight. Now, how many of you have 13-year-olds that would get up at 4:45 and go out and do that today? It just doesn't happen anymore. But a work ethic got inside me by starting life out that way. I did go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, that wonderful conservative bastion that it is, and came out here in 1985 and stumbled into business. I really got into business by accident. I was going to be a police officer. That's what I had done for 2 years out of college, but it wasn't meant to be. And I ended up stumbling into a business opportunity. Within 6 months, I was a manager. Within 6 months after that, I was a general manager. And I discovered my real skill set appeared to be in business, developing relationships, analyzing needs, creating solutions, and delivering on those, and then confirming that I'd done what I said I was going to do. And wouldn't that be nice in politics? Someone says what they're going to do, they do it, and then they confirm that they did what they said they were going to do. And that's a simple plan for me. In the 90s, I earned my way because I didn't, again, I came from pretty austere background. I earned my way into a telecommunications franchise. You may or may not remember a name. It was a small company called VoiceTel, but we grew to 200 offices on 4 continents, and we had the 6th largest office underneath my leadership right here in Denver. I wanted to be an owner, and I couldn't become an owner, so I found 2 guys who would give me ownership in some franchises out in New York. I turned around their failing franchises. In 18 months, I tripled revenue and doubled staffing. We sold the entity, and then I went to Chicago with the same company. They bought everything up, and I doubled revenue in 2 years, and then came back to Colorado. So you might be saying, well, Dan, I'm not hearing anything political here. I mean, haven't you been elected to city council, or haven't you been a representative somewhere? I mean, you haven't carried the water, Dan. Boy, you're running for governor. That's grabbing the brass ring the first time. It sure is. And I'm having a great time doing it because I think the governor's office is an executive office, is it not? Think about it. Legislators legislate, and judges and lawyers work in the judiciary, but the governor's office is an executive office. And right now, we've got a fine man who's our governor, but he had no business being the executive of our state. He was lost. And that's one reason why he's going home after just 4 years. This is the first time in 40 years an incumbent governor will not serve as governor on the Democratic side of the ticket. That's 40 years. So I want to bring that executive experience to the executive office. Here's my plans, and they're 3 simple points. I'm not a rocket scientist, folks. I'm a hard worker, and this is what's worked in business for me. We downsize state government. Now, I know you say, well, wait a minute now. That doesn't sound very good, Dan. Aren't you going to put some folks out of work? Yes, we will. But you know what? Bill Ritter put 4,000 new jobs on the state payroll this year. That's almost $500 million. It should not have happened. So we need to return to our 2006 levels and save hundreds of millions of dollars. We can take those hundreds of millions of dollars and put them where they belong, and that's in transportation infrastructure and public safety. Those are the two key purposes of state government in my book. So we downsize state government. Number two, we beg forgiveness from the energy industry that's left this state. If you don't know, Bill Ritter had to capitulate to the environmentalists that helped get him in office, and he put several of them on the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission. They rewrote 175 pages of oil and gas regulations that basically said to the energy industry, you know what, we're going to make it harder for you to do business in this state. Now, they may have felt it was for the right reason, but it hurt the industry, and we lost over $200 million a year in severance tax revenue when those companies left our state. So we must bring that industry back to our state. Get our natural gas out of the ground, get our oil out of the ground, get our coal out of the ground, get our uranium out of the ground. We want to put wind turbines up on the eastern plains, let's do it, but we're not going to subsidize it. If we want to put solar panels in the San Luis Valley, let's do it, but don't subsidize it. So we can harvest as much revenue off of all of our energy as possible. That's how I think as a leader. If we lower cost, we drive top-end revenue in. The third thing we do, don't fall out of your chairs, is we cut taxes. See, if we have strong revenue and profits coming in, then we cut taxes. That's how we stimulate an economy. That's what makes small business and corporate America get off their checkbooks and say, I like this Maes guy because he thinks like we do, and now I have the confidence to hire again. And that's what creates jobs. I'll say one thing about my opponent. You can't click your heels together 3 times and say jobs, 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 and have them fall out of the sky. They just don't. You have to have a proactive plan to create an environment where the free market thrives, and that's what creates jobs. That's my plan. Illegal immigration has become quite an issue of late, and I have a plan for that. Number one, we implement E-Verify. E-Verify is a simple computer check. Someone comes in and applies for a job, name, address, social. Either the name, address, and social match or they don't. If they don't get the job. It's that simple. If they can't get jobs, they will stop coming to our state. But for the ones who are here, we have to enforce 2 laws that are already on the books. One is Senate Bill 90, which basically says if I pull this gentleman over for speeding, and then I have probable cause to believe that he could be an illegal alien because something doesn't match up right, I have the responsibility to arrest that person, put them in jail, call immigration, and have them shipped out of our state. This is not a racial issue, folks. This is an environmental and economic sustainability issue. Our wages are coming down. Roofers, masons, hardwood floor companies, construction jobs. These are jobs that used to pay $20, $25 an hour and good benefits and health insurance and workman comps benefits. And now you're lucky to get a job for $10 or $15 an hour because the wages are being pulled down. This is hurting our economy. Needless to say, the resources that they pull out of our hospitals and our educational system. Okay? The last piece is verifiable identification. That means if they don't have the right ID, they don't get services in our state. This is not about race, folks. This is about taking care of our state, and we need to start doing it. That's my plan. That's who I am. I don't know how much time I've taken, but I'll give you, you know what?
Could you take 5 minutes of questions?
I'm going to take 5 minutes of questions. I'll give you the gift of time. I'm not going to run on like a politician because I'm not a politician. And one difference you'll see with me as we go is you're going to get straight answers from me. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you sometimes what you don't want to hear, but you're at least going to get an honest answer from me. I'll start on the right and work around. Jared.
University of Colorado is just an example. They get about 6 or 7% of their budget from the legislature.
Right.
That ranks about somewhere between 48th and 50th in the country.
It sure does.
And to me, that's criminal.
Well, it used to be higher, but because, did everybody hear that? Okay, yes, we're in awful shape in our higher ed. But the reason we're struggling is because we got a governor who chased revenue and jobs out of our state. So we've got to bring the revenue back to our state and then put it into the general fund where higher ed doesn't get cut anymore. The other piece is Amendment 23. Now, my wife and I have 2 children in public school, and we want quality public schools. But we can't keep throwing good money after bad into our public schools and not see any improvement in dropout rates and test scores. So Amendment 23 should be suspended, and then we'll bring equity to the general fund distribution of money, and then higher ed won't be picked on as much. Okay? Yes.
Concerning higher ed and education, I grew up in a family with 9 kids.
Ooh.
Didn't have any money.
Okay.
I had a paper out when I was 11.
Good
just
for
like
you. Yeah.
all my
Right.
older brothers, and we shoveled snow,
Right.
did all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I have to tell you, I went to the University of Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
the University of Colorado Law School, and it was largely on taxpayer money.
Mm-hmm.
So when you went to the University of Wisconsin,
Right.
did you go to school on taxpayer money?
Absolutely. The percent there was a significant portion of tax revenue from the state that goes to the higher educational system. I don't remember the
And
ratio,
did you also
but
get financial aid?
I did not. But I had an unusual situation where my deceased father's Social Security benefits and VA benefits helped get me through school.
Okay.
And I'll say one thing on that, because I think you still have something else to say.
Right.
Because if you're saying, oh boy, here's a conservative righty who doesn't care about people, folks, I've seen the dark side. And it was those Social Security checks, that safety net, that got me through college. So I understand that we have to create a safety net for the people who need it most. And I will do that, but yes, I benefited from tax dollars in higher education, sure.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because my big thing is, and I'm just afraid that people say, cut taxes, cut taxes, cut taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they going to cut out?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to cut out
Mm-hmm.
programs that provide opportunity
Right.
that you benefited from, and that I benefited from,
Right.
and a lot of other talented people benefited from.
I think that there's an enormous amount of waste in our government still, and that can be taken care of first before we get rid of valuable programs. If there's a valuable program, the person who runs that program is going to have to justify it, and if they justify it, then it should stay. But if they can't justify it, or it's out of date, or it's ineffective, then it should go. I mean, right now we got Bill Owens, or Bill Ritter. Don't even go with Bill Owens thing, but here a quick example, and then I know we got to go. For 2 years, the Republicans in the legislature told Bill Ritter, Bill, you got to cut the budget. You got to cut the budget. Cut it 10% across the board. And he ignored them, and he ignored them, and he nickeled and dimed here, and he nickeled and dimed there. He didn't have the courage enough to do what really needed to be done. But here's what he did do. He took Don Elliman, who was the head of the International Business Development, one of the secretarial head, department heads, right? And he said, you know what? I need someone to help me with the budget. So he created a COO position in the state government. First time a governor has ever created this position. And he did it because he wanted someone to help him with the budget. So he takes Don Elliman from a $150,000 job, puts him in a different $150,000 job, and what does Don tell Bill about the budget? He says, Bill, you got to cut the budget 10%. And Bill goes, wow, what a great idea. The Republicans have been telling him that for years. But he had to hire someone, pay him $150,000 a year to do the job he should have been doing himself. So because I'm an executive, and I'm not claiming I ran Quest or any major corporation, I'm a small, medium business guy, but I know that I can go in there and probably do the work of 3 people that are probably sitting around collecting $150,000 to $200,000 a year.
You have time for one more.
One more question, thank you, my dear.
Guy in the back.
Is there back here, or
Yeah.
Dave, did you have one?
Dan, what do you think the biggest issue is? You've talked about immigration, but certainly, what is the biggest issue in the state, and what are you facing?
I think the biggest, the question is, what's the biggest issue in the state? I did a teletown hall a couple weeks ago. Cool technology. We had about 600 people on the phone, and I love doing it. But I did a poll on, that you just push a button on your phone to say, press 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for this, and by far it was our economy and jobs. That was number 1. And that's why I want to focus on creating a healthy economy by creating lean government, putting tax dollars back in your pockets so you can spend it the way you want or hire people at your small business, and that's what stimulates our economy. My name is, one more? Okay, one more?
As governor, could you reappoint the board of Pinnacle?
The board of what?
Pinnacle.
Oh, well, you know, honestly, that's what governors really do. You know, contrary to perception, we don't write legislation and we don't legislate. We appoint cabinet heads, we appoint commission members, we appoint commission chair people, and then we manage those people. That's 90% of the job. So I believe, yes, the governor has some play in that. And that's where you really shift government, is by the appointments that you make. Okay? You know what happened at the state assembly, if anyone's dyed in the wool, you know, real activists, is 2010's a whole new ballgame, folks. The same old nonsense isn't playing this year. Okay, 22-year career legislators who want to come back in the game, their time is past. And when that announcement was made at the state assembly that I won, I mean, the roof almost came down. The activists were so charged up and excited that there was someone with a fresh face, with business experience, who wanted to come in and work on things from a business standpoint. And we're going to keep working hard. And what Steve, I hear what Steve says all the time. Our parents told us half the battle is what? Showing up. I've put 70,000 miles on 3 cars in the last 15 months. I have been all over this state. Nobody knows the hearts and minds of Colorado like I do right now. And I want to work hard for you. Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated voter, I'll work hard for you if you give me the chance. Thank you, Steve, for the opportunity to talk to everybody.